We got ourselves some ball games in week 13. I got score predictions and picks against the spread for every single game. Let's break it down. Packers-Lions on Thanksgiving. I'm leaning with Detroit 24-20. One of the tougher games to pick this week for sure. And a little less scoring I'm projecting than maybe what many expect. Good explosive offenses, but at the same time, pretty underwhelming this year. Pretty solid defenses. The matchup, you could argue, favors Green Bay because any team that gets any sort of pressure on Goff really throws off, disrupts that offense. And it could be the case just like in week 1 where Green Bay beat up the Lions pretty good. So we could see that scenario again. This being in Detroit on Thanksgiving plays a factor. A lot of injuries to monitor. I think the Lions could get a little healthier, especially at corner. That plays a factor. While Green Bay, I mean, yeah, they could be thin at corner, but they could get guys like Jaden Reed, Josh Jacobs back. How close to 100% are those guys? At the same time, we mentioned the cornerback position. The Lions getting a star corner, DJ Reed, back. I think the receiver play, kind of factoring the cornerback play, could be a difference in this game. I'll trust the Detroit Lions at home on Thanksgiving, but a toss-up game, 24-20 Detroit is what I got. I wouldn't bet on it. Chiefs-Cowboys, another good one on Thanksgiving. The new-look Cowboys look legit, actually, on both sides of the ball. They have potential to keep rolling in this game as the Chiefs, even with the win last week, don't fully look like their full selves here, but I think this is where the Chiefs really get rolling here. It's a tougher matchup for Dallas. The Chiefs are pretty balanced, and their offense really gets going against this Cowboys defense that is better, but I still feel like you can move the ball on this team. The Chiefs move the ball very well against the Colts. It's just all about executing in the red zone, and they get that job done here. I think Rashee Rice has a big-time game, counting on him to score, and I think the Chiefs, even if it stays close, and they'll find a way to pull this one off. Both teams had a pretty deep injury report to start the week. The Chiefs kind of clearing up right now. The Cowboys feel a little more banged up. So I have the Chiefs in a high-scoring game, 30-24. Mahomes, Rashee Rice, these guys go big in this one. Bengals, Ravens, Thursday night football. Joe Burrow is back, and that could give the Bengals a shot in this game. It could give them that boost. They are missing some key guys. T. Higgins, Trey Hendrickson, that could definitely be a factor. I think Cincinnati keeps it close. I am going to go at the Ravens pulling it off at home on Thanksgiving night here, 27-24. Mainly due the home field advantage, but the Bengals defense just still being so rough. But the Bengals could be very sneaky in this game. I think 7.5 is just too big of a line here. I love Cincinnati plus 7.5, keeping it close. They'll even have a shot to win. I like Ja'Marr Chase to score a touchdown. He scored 5 against the Ravens last year. I feel like with his quarterback back, he's the main guy. Obviously, should be able to find the end zone. The Bengals team total is at 21.5. With Burrow back, I like to think they could score over that. I like Derrick Henry to score. Running backs are scoring on the Bengals. The Ravens will pound Henry because they can, and that could keep Burrow on the sideline more, drain some clock, giving them the advantage. He should score. I mean, honestly, Mark Andrews should score because the Bengals are allowing a lot to tight ends. Problem is, do they sneak in Isaiah Likely a little bit more? That's kind of the scare there. A lot to like for the Bengals in this game, as they're, I think, being doubted a little too much by these lines, but I still have the Ravens winning this one, 27-24, and they'll control the game on the ground. I don't trust that Bengals defense. I was tempted to have more scoring. We could see both teams scoring in the 30s, but because of the clock draining factor, because really both teams on the ground, mainly the Ravens, maybe a little less scoring than the crazy amount here. But why I'm not fully sold on Baltimore, even though they're on a winning streak. I mean, they struggled with some bad teams recently. Lamar seems like he's still a little off. The defense has looked much better. This is Joe Burrow, though, and Ja'Marr Chase. They just played the Jets, the Browns, and J.J. McCarthy, before that. So I do think the Bengals will get going offensively more than the lines suggest here. But the Ravens just pull it off on what should be a fun one on Thursday night football. Black Friday football, Bears versus Eagles in Philly. When I first saw the line in this game, it started at 7. It's down to 6.5. But I was first like, that's way too much. Eagles games are close. Their offense is super inconsistent. The Bears are playing great, especially in the second half, especially down the stretch in the fourth quarter. So this game's got to stay close. But the more I'm thinking about it, maybe they're on to, a little something with that line. This is a little bit more of a challenge for the Bears offense, even though it's explosive right now against this Eagles defense, a different animal in Philadelphia. Just will the Eagles offense be able to do enough in this game. The Bears could get some corners back, but they are still very beat up at the linebacker position. I'd have this game, if Devontae Smith's out, which is a possibility, I'll have this much closer of a game. Now, Barkley, I don't think he's going to be, but if he's out, then we got to think about, could the Bears pull this off? But I'm going to trust the Eagles at home. That's huge. Them being at home, they play much better, especially on defense here. The Bears' offense been very explosive lately, but where they struggle executing fully in the red zone, and now they're going to be playing not only a much better team, but more so the much better defense than they have been playing, but they impressed on offense last week. I think Jalen Hurts should have a monster game because the Bears are allowing the most rushing yards per attempt to quarterbacks, and teams weren't really taking advantage of that until they played Jackson Dart. Dart was running all over him. He went down, obviously. I think Hurts gets going on the ground a ton in this game, so I like Hurts' touchdown. I like his line, but Philadelphia pulls it off, but the Bears things keep going their way. They bounce their way especially right at the end of games, really throughout the game, and they pull it off at the end, so it could just keep happening here. But I got a feeling the Eagles' defense gives them some struggles in this one. So 26-17 is what I'm currently feeling. We're monitoring some injuries. Devontae Smith, does he play? Does he not? That's a big factor here when picking against the spread. Niners at Browns. Shedeur Sanders is 1-0. Here's his second game. He's going to be at home against the San Francisco 49ers. At first glance, it's like, man, Purdy just threw 3 picks. This Browns defense and Myles Garrett, they are something. They're something different. So the Browns could play spoiler. It could keep the game somewhat close. The more I'm thinking about it, though, I like the matchup for San Francisco. I don't think they're going to go crazy because the Browns defense is really solid, but the Browns run a ton of man coverage, and the Panthers' mixture of zone really kind of confused Purdy last week. So the Niners should just do enough in this game. I think Purdy bounces back a little bit, and they'll control the clock. Mainly, I just don't trust the Browns' offense to do much. The Niners' defense has been looked better against the Panthers for sure. Looked really solid, and they'll throw Shedeur off. Robert Saleh will have a good plan for the young Shedeur Sanders, and I just don't trust Cleveland's offense to do much here. So I think the 49ers will win. I have them covering the 4.5. It started at 6.5. Everyone's throwing money on the Browns because their defense. It went down to 4.5. I have them covering that. I wouldn't really throw money on that. I'd like them just winning the game, and the Browns stay under 16.5. I just don't know how that offense does enough in a game like this. They're at home. It might be a little chilly for the Cali boys over there. It's going to be chilly for Shedeur Sanders, though, as well. I just don't see them being explosive enough on offense. They kind of relied on a couple explosive plays last week. Other than that, they kind of got shut down. Much tougher opponent. Give me the Niners 20-13. Jags, Titans. This could be a little of a trap game for the Jags. They typically, for some reason, struggle with the Titans at least once a year. It's in Nashville. I'm going to trust the Jags here. I'm saying leaning with them, taking care of business. In the back of my mind, it's like a divisional game. The Titans kind of caught a spark at the end of the Seattle game. Was that just an end of a game thing, or is that going to keep going here? The Jags were very sloppy last week. They still won. I think they'll cut the slop out this week and take care of business. They tweaked some things a couple weeks ago, so they're a little tougher of a game plan. I think specifically those running backs, Etienne and Tootin, I think they'll have a pretty solid day. They'll control the clock. Lawrence takes care of the football a little better. I'm going to go 24-16. You can move the ball on the Jags defense, but they do create turnovers. So if the Titans could stay clean, not turn it over, that's where they have a shot to make this close and possibly pull off the upset. But I think the Jags can get their hands on the ball, at least one time here. So I'll take them 24-16 in this one. A huge one in the AFC South. Texans, Colts. I'm going to go with the underdog here. I'm going to go with Houston for several reasons, but the main one here, I can't make myself pick against this defense right now. It's the clear top elite defense that is capable of beating any team in football, even if the offense doesn't show up. But the offense has been showing up, really, no matter who's at quarterback recently. Night and day better from earlier in the year. It hasn't been crazy good. I don't expect it to go crazy in this game, but I'm trusting the defense. The Colts, I felt like things went their way last week. They still couldn't pull it off. They're really relying on Jonathan Taylor to go crazy. And if there's one thing you maybe could do on this Texans defense is, you might be able to run the ball okay. James Cook kind of went off on them. The Bills still lost to the Texans defense. So the Colts are kind of relying on that. Not that Daniel Jones can't make some throws, but if he's a little uncomfortable, which this Texas defense does with the pass rush and with coverage, they're gonna get after Daniel Jones, and they're gonna create some big time plays, I think. So the key for the Colts is starting very well with the run and getting a lead. If they do that, they're gonna win the game, right? They're gonna win the game. So if the Texans get him in uncomfortable situations, they're gonna get after Daniel Jones. They're gonna make it more uncomfortable. I just haven't seen that dominant Colts team that we saw for majority of this year. I haven't seen it in some weeks, right? They struggled against the Steelers defense, keep in mind. It took overtime while Taylor went absolutely crazy to beat the Falcons. And I felt like things went their way and they still couldn't pull it off against the Chiefs. So this is a different animal with this defense here in this one. So I'll trust Houston. Vegas seems to be confident. The Colts are favored by 4.5. Their team totals at 24.5. I just think it's going to be more of a defensive game than expected. But the Colts defense is legit as well. They have an elite cornerback duo in going against a pass offense that's been a little inconsistent this year. That could be the difference in this game as well. I'm going to trust the Texans defense, getting after Daniel Jones in this Colts team. Give me 2017, a little more defense than expected. Saints at Dolphins. The Saints were completely sloppy last week. Even though they moved the ball fairly easy at times, they just look like a preseason team. If that happens again, they're going to get their ass kicked to a team that is playing a little better and off a bye in the Miami Dolphins. I think the Saints will clean up some of that stuff, and I think they'll have some plays here and there where they can keep this semi-close. I do see a scenario where the Dolphins win big, but I'm going to go Miami 24-20. In this one, a little bit of a bold touchdown pick. Juwan Johnson, he's been targeted a ton since Shuck has taken over as quarterback. It helps that other weapons like Shaheed, he's gone. He's gone. Kamara, who's a weapon in the passing game, he's injured right now. So Johnson not only targeted a ton with Shuck, but he scored 2 out of 3 starts with Shuck in there. So that's worth a sprinkle of cash there at plus 310. I thought that was an interesting one. But I'll go Miami 24-20. Achane, Waddle, make those explosive plays, take care of business. The Dolphins defense has been playing a little bit better recently too, so I'm curious about that. Kenneth Grant, underrated rookie that's really getting going. So even though it's not the best game in the world, I'm kind of keeping my eye on it. If the Saints can cut the slop off, the slop out, how does Shuck progress? How does the Dolphins defense progress? So kind of curious. Falcons, Jets. I actually think this is one of the tougher ones to pick this week. I could see that. I thought about it. I think the Jets could win because, again, no Michael Penix, no Drake London. The Falcons pulled it off last week. The Saints were extremely sloppy. The Falcons made some stops. Don't get me wrong here, but Falcons were a little fortunate. The Saints were just flat out dropping the ball on handoffs and snapping over the quarterback's head. Maybe the Jets don't. Maybe they do make those mistakes. A battle between some legit running backs, Bijan Robinson, Breece Hall. The deciding factor for me here was the difference in defenses. Even though the Jets defense played fairly well against the Ravens last week, the Falcons are getting after the quarterback right now. They'll get after Tyrod, and that could be the difference. But a toss-up game, believe it or not. I could see the Jets winning, but I'll take Atlanta 19-16. Cardinals at Bucks, and we're waiting to see if Baker Mayfield plays. The Bucks are staying optimistic that he has a shot to play this week. So this prediction is with him playing 27-23. If it's Teddy Bridgewater, I'm kind of leaning with going the Bucks still because the Cardinals really don't have much of a run game. The Bucks should get a run game going if Bucky Irving comes back, and they have a couple guys obviously behind him that could play as well. Maybe they get Chris Godwin ramped up a little bit. So I think I'm still leaning with Tampa. It's just going to be a little less scoring for them if Baker doesn't play, but it sounds like he has a shot to play, and it's really important that they get hot right now. This is where, looking at the schedule, this is where they got to win this game pretty much. So I think Baker might suit up. I'm not an injury expert, but I'm going to go 27-23 if he does, and their team total is, in terms of points, sitting at 23.5. So with Baker, it might go up, but right now, if Baker plays, I think they're going to beat that for sure. Brissett has the ability to throw on this Bucs secondary. Michael Wilson's balling out. They're a little banged up. It doesn't really sound like Marvin Harrison Jr. is going to be back yet either. Again, they're kind of one-dimensional. Could they get Trey Benson back? Is that really going to change against a Bucs stout run defense? Probably not. So 27-23 Tampa. They'll get some scoring going if Baker Mayfield plays. Rams, the best team in football right now, taking on the Panthers. Give me LA 27-16. Something that's a big factor here is the Panthers really wore down against the Niners. They had guys, especially on defense, coming out left and right, and they already are banged up on the offensive line as well. Will J.C. Horn get out of concussion protocol? They're beat up at corner as it is. I mean, Stafford, Puka, Devontae Adams, they'll take advantage of that. Even though the Panthers defense is a little tricky for teams, they'll take advantage of that. So if they're banged up on defense, which I expect them to be still, the Rams will score it up, and I think they'll cover that big line at 10. If the Panthers get a lot healthier than expected, maybe the Panthers cover that 10 spread. So that's why right now I wouldn't really touch it, but I'm confident with the Rams. Their defense is balling out. Bryce Young threw a couple interceptions last week. I just don't see that. I know they're better at home. I just don't see how they'll get enough offense going against this Rams team, and Stafford and company will make enough plays through the air. I would, if you're putting together a parlay, the Rams money line odds are pretty terrible. If you want to go alternate line, safer at 2.5, 3.5, or maybe up to 5.5. That's definitely a possibility. It is a little scary because teams on that much of a win streak, they're due for a stinker, to lay a stinker at any time. I don't think it's this week, but so I'd consider the Rams on an alternate line, but I got them winning 27-16. Keep an eye on the Panthers. They got a little banged up, out physical against those Niners on Monday night. Another game that could get a little out of hand here. Seattle Seahawks should take care of business against the Minnesota Vikings 24-10 at home, wearing those nasty throwback uniforms. I'd say my favorite uniforms out of everyone's regular uniforms, mainly because the helmet, the Vikings, but out of any, you could pick any uniform out there, even alternates, throwbacks. I love those Seattle Seahawks throwbacks so much. I got them taking care of business, not just because of the uniforms, because they're a really good team. The Vikings, not so much right now because of quarterback play. 24-10. Does J.J. McCarthy play? Are the Vikings better without him? It would be an undrafted rookie in Brosmer from Minnesota. He looked pretty decent in preseason, so it's a little up in the air. That's why I want to say, pass on betting this one. I'd take Seattle at an alternate line, kind of like the Rams situation. The odds are going to be terrible, but they should take care of business. There is a scenario where, maybe Brosmer's better. If he plays, is better than McCarthy. There's no game plan for him. If they score a little more than 10, I don't see them scoring a lot more than that. And then maybe, because the Vikings know Sam Darnold, the Flores defense is still pretty nasty at times. Maybe they get pressure. And I still think Seattle should find a way to do enough in this one. 24-10, Sam Darnold revenge game. They basically chose McCarthy over him. He goes out there. I see JSN balling out like usual here. Seattle's defense just does enough. That's really all they need in this game is their defense. 24-10 is what I got. Bills at Steelers. My gut's telling me the Bills win pretty big. I love that 3.5 line. It is a little scary, I guess, because the Bills got really banged up against that physical Texans defense. They're banged up on the offensive line. They're banged up on defense. More linebacker injuries. What else is new? The rookie Harrison, a little banged up recently as well. So that's pretty tough. It feels like anyone can move the ball on the Bills. That Rodgers is coming back. I think the Bills defense still finds a way to do some damage here, and I think James Cook has a big time game. I think the bounce back spot here. Steelers defense, we thought they improved, and the Bears offense had their way with them. I think due to Caleb Williams kind of scrambling around, buying time, Josh Allen will be able to do that. It's not the Texans defense. Yes, Watt could get after Allen. He got pressured a ton last week, but it's just not the Texans defense. I think the Bills run this thing up 31-20. I love Buffalo minus 3.5. I'm rolling with that one. I'm thinking about them hitting the over on their team total 25.5 as well. Just didn't put that on here yet. Just offensive line injuries we're kind of looking at here. But Josh Allen, James Cook, these guys find a way to take care of business in possibly dominant fashion here in Pittsburgh. Raiders at Chargers. This line opened at 10.5. It's bumped down a little bit to 8.5, and it's in LA. The Chargers they're a much different team at home. They had that much needed break. Hampton could be back. The Raiders are terrible. I think the line kind of bumped down. Why people are betting on the Raiders? Maybe because they fired Chip Kelly, and I don't know if it was really Chip Kelly's fault, but sometimes when teams fire guys, they kind of get going. I think a lot of it's due to just change and the opponent not really ready for that, like what's different, what haven't they showed yet. So that could give the Raiders a little bit of a spark, but the Chargers are a different animal at home. The defense is the best part about this team, even though they have some ball players on offense. I think they'll do enough on both sides of the ball is where I'm getting at. Them being home is huge in this one. 27-16. I would use the Chargers money line as a parlay option. It's not the greatest odds, but it's not as terrible as it opened at. So it's another option you could use if you're putting together a parlay. Sunday night football, the Broncos at the Commanders. I like Denver in this one. I'm surprised about this line. It almost seems like, does Vegas know a little something? But maybe the reason it's 6.5 is the Broncos, when they play really anybody, they keep it. It's always close, right? They're a little underwhelming when you don't really expect them to be or when they shouldn't be. My guts tell me that's not the case in this game. The Broncos get that much needed bye. They're a little bit, everyone's banged up, and they figured out a game plan to keep the offense rolling, keep it consistent. I don't think they go bonkers on offense, but they'll do enough here in this game. The Commanders' defense has been brutal. The last time we saw them, they I guess kept it low scoring and close against the Dolphins. It was overseas. It's the Dolphins. The Broncos are going to out physical them in this game. Jaden Daniels might practice, but it doesn't sound like he's going to play. It really doesn't sound like he's going to play. So the Broncos defense is just too much here. Mariota's not playing bad, but they don't have much of a run game going. Broncos, I like them on both sides of the ball in this game. I'd bet them at 6.5, 26-13. I'm surprised about that line in this one. The Commanders are also pretty banged up on defense. The Broncos should have success through the air, on the ground, and of course with their D. I got a major upset here on Monday night. I'm aware it's pretty damn bold, but I'm going to go with the New York Football Giants. If Jackson Dart plays, even though Jameis is playing well, I think the Patriots would find a way to turn him over a bit. If Dart plays, he's a full participant, but is still in concussion protocol. If Dart plays, I'm going to go with a major upset. Giants in a squeaker, 24-23, and my gut is telling me that if you watch our picks video, Pete, who's doing damn good at picks this year, said the same. He's feeling the same thing, but it's not just the gut, right? There's more to it than that. The Patriots are a really good team. They're a lot better than the Giants. They're at home in this game, wearing their throwbacks. They're going for 10 in a row. That is tough to do in any sport, especially the NFL, especially this year with how many upsets, wacky finishes there are. So it might just be tough to do that. They're getting pretty beat up all of a sudden. The offensive line, they're going to have two key starters, rookies, that really boost their offensive line out. And even with those guys, May's been pressured a bit. He's been balling out. He might ball out in this game, and the Patriots might win. It's definitely possible. But with those two guys out going against this defensive line of the Giants, they'll get pressure. And you factor in Shane Bowen just got fired. It could mean the Giants defense still stinks it up outside of the front, the defensive front. But sometimes that, again, just boosts the team because they switch things up. Who knows what the new defensive play calling will look like. They might mix it up, and it's going to confuse the Patriots based on what they watch on film. So I think those are multiple factors, and I think Mike Kafka's doing a good job since he's taken over with this Giants offense. They scored a bit on the Packers. They scored a lot on the Lions. The Patriots defense is really good. Why has it been really good? Because they're elite stopping the run, but since Milton Williams went down, they're allowing some things on the ground to the Jets, and they certainly allowed a lot to Chase Brown last week. The Giants, if Jackson Dart plays, he could run. They have Tracy. He obviously can run. He played well last week. That's another factor right there. So just the game plan factor, because the new coaches, coordinators in there calling plays. But I would like Jackson Dart to play for me to continue to roll with this pick. So a lot of reasons to go with it. I'm surprised that the line is 7. I love the Giants plus 7.5. I think they have a shot to win. I'm not guaranteeing it, obviously. The fact that it's at 7.5 tells me Vegas thinks I'm out of my mind for picking the Giants to win. I think that line should be the Patriots like 4.5, 3.5. Absolute trap game here. I love the Giants plus 7.5. I also like the Patriots under 27.5, but there's a shot because the Giants are so bad there's a shot make and throw on them. And they'll get pressured a bit, but the Giants are so bad stopping the run. But I like the Patriots better with just Henderson. They're trying to mix in Stevenson, too much probably, but they could thrash him on the ground. But there you have it for all my scores and picks against the spread for this big time week here in Week 13 with Thanksgiving and Black Friday. Check out our other videos. We got some up, including our shorts already early this week. We're going to get a jump on our locks video because we got to get it up before the early Thanksgiving game between the Packers and Lions. But that's going to do it. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.